All right, we are going to learn about a new formula that I don't think you've done before, and it is called law of sines. It can be used to find missing sides and missing angles on any kind of a triangle. It does not need to be a right triangle. It can be used on any kind of a triangle. You're going to kind of think about setting up a proportion here. I don't know why this kind of came out funny, but you're going to think about setting up a proportion. And you're going to, C should be over here, by the way. You're going to use any two of these things at a time. So you could use the first two, you could use the second two, or you could use the first and the third one. You're not needing to use all three of them at one time. Okay, I want you to notice what's in blue. That probably seems a little bit crazy to you right now, but I will tell you about that as we go, that sometimes you need two sets of answers, and I will explain that when we get to that. Just so you know, again, that law of sines can be used on any kind of a triangle. And what you need to know is that alpha always needs to be opposite of side A. Beta always needs to be opposite of side B. And this is gamma, which kind of looks like an upside down Cancer ribbon, needs to be opposite of side C. Okay? It doesn't matter where A, B, and C are, but it does matter that alpha is opposite of A, beta is opposite of B, and gamma is opposite of C. C does not need to be the longest side. Just so you know, it's not a right triangle, so it doesn't matter which one's the longest side. Okay? So we are going to start out by using the information that it gave us to find all the missing sides and angles. Okay? So here we go. I start with a triangle, and you need to kind of draw yourself a picture here. Alpha is 40 degrees. Side A is 4. I am going to put beta down here. That means this is side B. Gamma is 60 degrees, which means this has to be side C. Okay? So the first thing that I'm going to find, because it's the easiest, is I am going to find angle beta. Okay? Obviously there's 180 degrees in a triangle, so when I find angle beta, I will go 180 minus 40 minus 60, and beta will come out to be 80 degrees. I did not have to round it or anything. Okay? So that is that. Okay, now I'm going to set up a proportion, and I'm going to use law of sines. When you use law of sines, what you always need to do is you need to find an angle and a side opposite of it, an angle and a side opposite of it, and you can only be missing one of those pieces of information. Okay, so the next thing I am going to find is I am going to find side C. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to set this up. So I will go sine and an angle. I'm going to use 40 degrees. Over the side opposite of it, which is 4, equals sine at an angle. I'm going to choose 60 degrees over the side opposite of it, which is C. Okay, notice I'm using law of sines for the first time in this problem, and what I am missing is a side. Okay, I'm missing a side of the triangle. When I'm missing a side of the triangle, there's only one set of answers, and you don't need to worry about a second set, and I'll explain all of that as we get to it. But notice, I set up law of sines, and I'm missing a side, so I only have one set of answers here. Okay, I am going to solve this proportion by cross multiplying. So I will cross multiply those two, and I will have C times the sine at 40 equals 4 times the sine at 60. And of course I'll divide by C, or solve for C by dividing by sine at 40. And then you can type that into your calculator, and I want you to practice doing that. You're going to type in 4 times the sine at 60, make sure you close the sine at 60, divided by the sine at 40. And make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So practice doing that. When you do that, side C should come out to be 5.39. And I didn't give you any units on this case, in this case, so we won't be able to label it, but I will just say side C is 5.39. Okay? Then we are still missing side B in this case. So when I want to find side B, I'm going to do something very similar. An angle, sine at an angle, a side opposite of it. And then sine at the angle, a side opposite of it. Okay? Again, I'm missing a side here, so I don't have to worry about a second set of possible answers. I will cross multiply, so I have B times the sine at 40 equals 4 times the sine at 80. Again, divide by sine at 40. And B, if you type that into your calculator, will come out to be 6.13. And you should check that and make sure that you're able to get those in your calculators okay. I want you to notice that I never used SOHCAHTOA here, and I never used a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Those are things that you can only use on right triangles, and they are not going to be helpful here. Okay? But law of sines can be used on any kind of a triangle, including a right triangle. All right, here we go. This is a little bit of an unrealistic problem, I think, but we're going to go with it. All right, two hunters are standing 500 yards apart. So we have Julio over here. Here we go. This is Julio. He's 500 yards apart from Rafael. Here's Rafael. And they have a goose that's flying in between them. Here's my goose, you guys. I know it's a pretty weak attempt, but there's my goose, okay? Julio looks up with an angle of elevation to the goose of 18 degrees. So this angle of elevation, because remember, angle of elevation has to be measured from a horizontal line. So when I measure it from horizontal line, I get 18 degrees right there. And Rafael looks up to the goose with an angle of elevation of 21 degrees. And the question is, how high is the goose? So this is what I need to find out right here. That will answer my question. Okay? First of all, I'm going to tell you some really common mistakes that people make here. And that is this. The first common mistake that people make is they split this 500 in two. And they go, oh, well, that's 250. And that's 250. Okay? That can't be done because the angles at the bottom are different. I do not have an isosceles triangle, and so I can't split that distance in half and think that is going to work. So that's not going to work. Okay? So the other thing people do, I will show you, is they set up a proportion, but they set it up wrong. Okay? So super common mistake. I want to find the height, and people obviously know that this is 90 degrees, okay? Height is always measured straight up and down, so that's not a problem, okay? So those are 90s, and then if you go 90 minus 18, and actually you can do this. You can go 180 minus 18 minus 21 makes this angle right here be 141. Oops, not a big zero. 141 degrees right there. Okay. You can also fill in the little angles if you want to. Right here, I can fill this in. 180 minus 90 minus 18 makes this angle be 72. And 180 minus 90 minus 21 makes this angle be 69. Okay, and 72 plus 69 adds up to 141. So, here we go. This is the next thing people do. They set up a proportion, and they go like this. I'm going to use the left side, and you could use the right side if you wanted, but I am going to use the left side. They will go like this. Sine at 141, that top angle, over the side opposite of it, which is 500, equals sine of 18 degrees over h. Okay? And people think that's right because they've set up the law of sines correctly. But here's the problem. When you set up the left side of that proportion, you used the big triangle, and you used 141 over 500. But when you set up the right side of that proportion, you only used this triangle right here. Okay? And so you're using two different triangles to set up a proportion, and that is not going to work. So on this problem, I'm going to tell you, you can't do it in one step. This can't be h right here. You have to continue with the big triangle like you did when you set up the left side of the proportion and say sine at 18 over, I'm going to call this side x. Okay? And that's what we're going to find. So I'm going to find x first, and then once I find x, I can use the height, but I can't do it until I find x. Okay, so when you cross multiply, x is going to be 500 times the sine at 18 all over the sine at 141. You can put that into your calculators, and x should come out to be 245.52. Okay? Again, that is not the answer to the problem, because the answer to the problem is to find the height. Okay? So I found this now to be 245.52. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this triangle in here, and I'm going to set up another proportion. And you can do SOHCAHTOA now because you have a right triangle, or you could do law of sines. I like to stick with law of sines. So that's what I'm going to do. Remember, this is a 90-degree angle, so you can go sine at 90 over the side opposite of it equals sine at the angle, which is 21, over my height. Okay? So your height will be 245.52 times the sine at 21 over the sine at 90. And when you do that, your height should come out to be about 87.99 yards, which is why I say this is probably a little unrealistic, but that should answer your question. All right. And by the way, notice when we set these up too, when we set up law of sines, in both cases we were missing a side here and we were missing a side here. So we did not have to worry about more than one set of answers, okay? But I want to show you about sometimes when you do have to worry about one set of answers, okay? Sometimes when you draw triangles, like in this case, I will give you a set of triangles. And notice what I gave you is I gave you a side, I gave you a side, and I gave you an angle that was not in between it. So I gave you this. And if you remember from geometry, that is not one of your congruence theorems. So if I said to you, I said to someone, draw a triangle with one side of 6, one side of 8, and an angle that's not in between them has to be 35 degrees. Many of you would draw a triangle that looks like that, like this, like what you see on your screen. But some of you will draw a triangle that looks like this. And guess what? This is still 6 right here. So you don't know if it's a triangle that looks like that or if it's the triangle that looks like this. You don't know that, okay? So sometimes there's two sets of answers, okay? Sometimes when it gives you the information, there will only be one set of answers, because when you try to swing this side to make the other triangle, it's just not long enough to swing any other way, and there's only going to be one set of answers, okay? Sometimes when you make your triangle, it'll actually end up like this, where no matter how I swing this side, it can't even make a triangle. It doesn't connect to that third side, and so there's actually no answer, okay? So next we're going to look at some situations where I've given you the piece of information. Because you're not drawing things to scale and you're not having a protractor or whatever, you're not going to know what kind of situation it is from the beginning, but we will figure it out, okay? So here we go. All right, I'm going to draw my triangle here. Angle alpha is 40 degrees. Side A is 3. I'm going to put that there. I don't know beta, but I know side B is 2. And I know this has to be side C. This is gamma then. Okay? So I can't find any angles here because I have two unknowns. That is not going to help me. So I'm going to need to first of all find a side. And the first side I'm going to find is side B in this case, because I know an angle, so I'm going to go sine at 40 and the side opposite of it. And then I know side B is 2, but I don't know angle beta. Okay, now notice I have set up the law of sines, and the first thing that I'm needing to find is an angle. When that happens, when you set up law of sines and the first thing you're needing to find is an angle, this is the kind of situation where you have to worry about if there's a second set of answers. Okay, so we're going to find this first, and then we'll talk about how to figure that out. All right, now when you cross multiply this, you have this. 3 times sine at beta equals 2 times sine at 40. You'll divide by 3. So sine at beta is this. Now, when you're missing an angle, then you need to put inverse sine in. So you're actually going to enter this into your calculator like this. Sine negative 1 of 2 sine at 40 over 3. And when you do that, make sure your calculator is in degree mode, and your beta should come out to be 25.37 degrees. Okay, so there's that. And once I know beta, I can pretty easily figure out gamma, because gamma obviously will be 180 minus alpha minus beta, which I just figured out to be 25.37. And so gamma will come out to be 114.63 degrees. Okay, and again, you'll put that into your calculator. And then, of course, you need to find side C. And again, I'll set up a proportion. So I am going to go sine at 40 over 3 equals sine at gamma, which is 114.63. I'm running out of space here, over side C. And yeah, now I'm missing a side, okay? So to find side C, I will cross multiply, and I will have 3 times the sine at 114.63 divided by sine at 40, okay? I'm not missing an angle, so you can type this into your calculator just like you see it. 3 times sine at 114.63 divided by sine at 40. And side C then will come out to be 4.24. Okay, so there's your first set of answers. Okay, now the question is this a situation like this one where I could have had 2 sets of answers? I could have had a triangle that looked like this, and I could have had a triangle that looked like this. And there's actually 2 possibilities. And I don't know if I have a situation like that. And here's how you check. Okay, what you do to check is this. I'm going to even write these steps out. You take 180 minus the first angle that you found. Okay, so in this case, I will take 180 minus 25.37. The first angle I found in this case was angle beta. It's not always angle beta, but in this case, the first angle I found was angle beta. So I'm going to take 180 minus that, and then I get 154.63. Okay, then you need to ask yourself this. Plug that angle in, and then you want to ask yourself, is there room? Because remember, there's only 180 degrees in a triangle. Okay? So if I go back up here, this is what I'm wanting to know. I found angle beta first. My question is this. Can beta 2, I'm going to call it my second beta, can it be 154.63? That's a big question. So I'm going to go all the way back up to my triangle, and I'm going to do this. The first time we found beta to be 25 point something. When I do my 180 minus the first angle that I found, 180 minus 25.37, I get this, 154.63. Okay? And here's your question. If this is 154.63 and this is 40, do I have a legal triangle? Because remember, there's only 180 degrees in a triangle. And 154.63 and 40 puts you over 180. It's not going to work. It doesn't fit in there. It can't work. And in this case, there's only the one set of answers that we already calculated. Okay? We already did it. We got it. So there's one set of answers, and I'm done here. Okay? So that means this was a situation like this one, where if I try to swing it, I can only make one triangle. Okay? That's what that means. All right, moving on to our next one here. We have a triangle Alpha is 50 degrees. A is 1. I don't know beta. I know B is 2. Don't know gamma. Don't know C. Okay? So again, I can't find an angle here. I have too many unknowns. But I'm going to set this up with using law of sines. So sine of an angle I know over the side opposite of it equals sine of an angle I don't know over the side opposite of it. Okay? So when you cross multiply these two, you will get 1 times the sine at beta, which is just the sine at beta, equals 2 times the sine at 50. And I'm even going to just divide by 1 so that you can see that little shortcut there. Again, you're missing an angle, so you're going to enter this into your calculator like this. And I want you to try it because when you try it, you should be getting an error. Okay, there's an error on here. And so there is, it doesn't work. And so there's actually no solution to this. And it does not work, which means, of course, that this was a situation like this one, where there is no triangle that is possible, where no matter how you swing that side, it can't make a triangle and it can't connect. But you didn't know that because you didn't draw things to scale. All right, last one, right here. And I bet you can guess what's going to happen. Okay, so angle alpha is 35 degrees. A is 6. Don't know beta. B is 8. Don't know gamma. Don't know C. All right, I'm going to buzz through this first part really quickly, and I want to get to the part where we have to check for a second set of answers. Okay, so here we go. The first thing I'm going to find is I'm going to find angle beta because I know an angle is side opposite of it. I'm missing the side opposite, or the angle opposite of side B. So the first thing that I'm going to find is beta. Okay, you don't always find angle beta first, by the way. You just have to look for which side, which piece of information you know, and you have to go from there. So I will go like this. Sine at 35 over 6 equals sine at beta over 8. Okay? And again, I'm missing an angle. Notice I'm setting this up, and the first thing I'm missing is an angle. So when the first thing you're missing is an angle, that's a clue to you that you're eventually going to have to check for a second set of answers. Okay? In this case, because I'm missing an angle, I have to type this into my calculator like this. And beta, I'm going to call it beta 1, should come out to be 49.89 degrees. Okay? And then you can find gamma, because there's 180 degrees in a triangle, so you'll be able to go 180 minus 35 minus 49.89, and gamma will come out to be 95.11. Okay, and then you're going to find side C. And I'm going to call this C1. Okay, and again, you'll set this up. You'll have an angle and a side opposite of it, an angle and a side opposite of it. Okay, so C will be 6 times sine at 95.11 divided by sine at 35. And you can type all of that into your calculator, and C should come out to be 10.42. So here's where I'm at. Okay, so now I've done my problem, but remember, I set up law of sines, and the very first piece of information I had to find was an angle. And that, again, is a clue that you have to check for that second set of answers. Okay, and again, here's how you check for that second set of answers. Okay, again, I take 180 minus the first angle that I found. So in this case, I will do 180 minus 49.89. And when I do that, that comes out to be 130.11. Okay, now the first angle that I found was beta. So the question is, can this be my second beta? Okay, and you have to go all the way back up to the original triangle. I go all the way back up here. And here's the deal. I'm going to start this whole problem over with. I'm going to ignore everything I already found. I'm going to ignore beta 1, gamma 1, C1. I'm going to ignore all of that. The question is this. Can this angle right here, instead of being able to be 49.89, can it be 130.11 and still have, still fit in there, remembering that there's only 180 degrees in a triangle? And if I add this 130.11 and this 35 together, I am still less than 180 degrees. So I am still able to find a second triangle. Okay, and now I'm going to start over. So I'm going to go up here. My beta 2 I already calculated by finding 180 minus the first angle that I found, 180 minus beta 1, and I got that to be 130.11. So there's my second set of betas. Okay, I'm still using this triangle. Every piece of information in black that it gave me at the beginning has to stay. So now I'm going to set this up like this, and I am going to find gamma 2. And again, gamma 2 will be 180 minus 35 minus 130.11. So your gamma 2 will be 14.89 degrees. Okay, and then you'll find side C again by doing sine at 35 over A, over 6, sorry, equals sine at gamma, this gamma now. So now this gamma is 14.89 this time. So 14.89 over side C. And when you calculate that, you can cross multiply and figure that out. You should get C2 to be 2.69. Okay? So this is one of those situations where you have two sets of answers. You have the set of answers that are in blue, and you have the set of answers that are in black. And you need both sets of answers. Okay? And again, you have to check for that when you've set up law of sines the first time and you're missing an angle first. Okay? So that is that.